Good afternoon, everybody. I hope that you are so well. I actually started this with the focus on grade 11, but grade 12s, I have seen numerous questions about risk in past IEB papers, and it would not be a bad one to carry over from grade 11. I'm sure your teachers are not focusing on this and they're hoping that you're going to remember from grade 11 work. But I remember there was a section C just talking about risk. And what I like about this is it gives you solutions of how you could manage the risk. So have a look at the previous two videos with regards to risk management, because that's going to go into all the detail for you up until a certain point, because I still had video 3 that I needed to complete. So it goes through what the uncertainties are in our economy. I put in some current affairs about South Africa, what Brexit is, what the COVID did, what the uncertainty is, changes in legislation, in social. Then we had a look at what is risk, analyzing that something could possibly take place. What are the 3 types that you're going to be looking at? What is the objective for companies? The interrelationship of risk in a business. Oh, this is lovely. If you had to include this in a section C, lovely, lovely. Risk profiling, risk culture. And then the last video was about the types of risk. And I went into detail with checkers as the focus. So remembering now we're doing fashion retail, you need to just apply that to your fashion retail. While I'm actually just flipping through, let's go through some risk that fashion retail industries are up against. And I pulled some of this current affairs for you. So supply chain disruptions is a big risk for fashion. Market volatility. Market moves. Fashion is in and fashion is out. What's cool is not cool anymore. Quality control issues on products. Environmental regulations, because a lot of it is synthetic. A lot of what we wear has got harmful chemicals and harmful synthetic materials in there. So we've got to look at the environmental regulations on that. And then the safety hazards. And safety hazards is not as much wearing the clothing, it's very much within the factories of our fashion retail industry. The work environment in the garment industry is hazardous and risky for the employees, which causes a number of health issues from many sorts of physical, chemical, ergonomic, and biological risks. What are the top 10 fashion retail industry challenges in 2023? The first was sustainability, textile waste, diversity and inclusion initiatives, supply chain disruptions, consumer behavior, returns, cybersecurity, and inflation. Those are risks. Safety risks in fashion, especially in your factories. What do they need to do? Well, they've got to have precautions, earplugs, noise cancelling headphones. It's very noisy. Face masks. You know, the thread and the material is all up in the air and you're breathing that in. It cannot be good for your lungs. Gloves, proper attire that covers most of the exposed skin. Cleaning of the mills and air ducts to eliminate flammable ducts before they become an issue. Big risk problem is fire hazards, guards on the machines where the material doesn't fly all over. You know, you've got all that material in the air, as I said, breathing in, proper air and temperature so workers and equipment will not overheat. The cost of returns is also a risk when a customer returns a product, and it is steep for fashion and accessory brands. It also has a massive environmental problem. Not only does merchandise that can't be resold end up in landfills, but shipping products back and forth increases emissions, not to mention all the wasted packaging. Okay, so grade 11s, grade 12s, let's go into the steps that you would take as a risk manager. This is a good question. There are 4 steps. You need to do a risk assessment. You would then put together a risk management policy, a risk response, and risk reporting. This is important Write these 4 things down onto a piece of paper, stick it up onto your door or somewhere where you can read it so that you can know that there are 4 steps to assessing the risk. And I really feel that they will add in risk. They always bring the word in risk into your IEB exams. Have a look at past papers. It is always there. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, before we go into those steps, is you need to manage risk. So we need to assess what type of risk is it, what is the impact of this risk, and what strategies are we going to put into place to combat or alleviate this risk. These are our steps. Our first step is risk assessment. You need to identify the risk. So once you know what that risk is, you are going to then have a description of the risk. What is this risk that we are facing at the moment? So, for example, if we were going to be looking at Mr. Price and we were going to go online and we were going to have a delivery system and we're going to have logistics that we can actually deliver, the risk of that is cybersecurity. How are we going to keep our database of our clients safe? How are we going to be doing the payments? How are we not going to allow people to infiltrate our website and take over information? So you would then describe that risk, and then you're going to estimate what is the impact that this risk is going to have on our business. And you would call a management meeting. You would do a pros and cons chart. You could do a cost or risk benefit analysis. What is the cost of this? Looking at decision trees, a pestle analysis, and a SWOT analysis. So you're going to be bringing in all your organizational performance tools to help you to unpack the impact of this risk. Methods. How do you go about doing this? You can have a risk workshop. You could look at benchmarking against other fashion retail companies. Who is doing it well? How are they doing it? How are they avoiding the risk? Stakeholder consultations, and that is where you get a third party involved to make sure that you are getting expert advice. You could look at auditing, both internal and external auditor, so that they analyze what is the risk of this new plan that you've got. You could do scenario planning, the what if this, what if that, what if we can't deliver, what if there's strikes, what if there's looting, how do we get our product through to end customer? And then you could look at surveys. Okay, so I've just put that again, just so that you know these are methods. Nice question. What are the methods you could use to assess your risk? The second part of risk assessment is that you could look at doing an estimation matrix. What a lovely question to ask you. So it is 4 quadrants. What is the high probability of this risk happening, but it has low impact on our business? So it could happen, but it's not crucial. It's not going to destroy our business. Then you look at what is the high probability and high impact of something, and that you're going to avoid at all costs. You would then have a look at the low probability of this risk happening. Us going back into a COVID state would be a low probability, but a high impact. Hey, if we had to go back again and not work and go, people are not allowed to shop again, but that is a low probability of it happening again. So have a look. High probability, low impact of the risk, not crucial. High probability or high impact, avoid at all costs. Control, Alt, Delete. Low probability, low impact, you're going to ignore possibly the risk because it's not such a big risk. It's going to be okay. Possibly one of your fashion designers is quitting. That's okay. We are going to find what's the probability? Probably not high, but we will have a plan to make sure that we've got other fashion designers waiting. Low probability, high impact, not a major issue because of the probability that it happens is not there. But if it does happen, there'd be a high impact. If we had one of our key suppliers move away from us, say, no, thank you, we don't want to do business with you anymore, that would be a low probability of that happening, but a high impact because we have already established this relationship with our suppliers. That's why we can, as Mr. Price, have the low cost strategy. We are all about value and low cost. Okay, so that is part of risk assessment. Nice question to ask. Step 2 is our risk management policy. And that is to ensure that we have a policy. It must be in writing. Once we have discussed everything, you need to put it in writing. It must be communicated. I know when I worked for Kimberly Clark, we would assess the risk according to a robot. And we would say if it was a red risk, that would be our avoid. We cannot function. This is kind of what we would do. We would have an amber light or yellow light risk and our green light risk, which meant it was a very low risk. And on all three of those lights, we would have a strategy in place to ensure that if that did happen, we would then be able to go into our strategy and we would then be able to unplug and do the plan that we had already foreseen. And it's quite a process. It's a lot of meetings, a lot of writing, but a risk manager is going to be doing this for the company. Right. The next step is the risk response. And if we refer to the estimation matrix, it's easy to see how some risks will be avoided, how they will be reduced, or how they will be accepted. So risk avoidance is that all action will be taken to prevent or limit this risk from happening. We will avoid this risk at all costs possible. Risk reduction, action is only taken to limit the possibility of the risk. You're not going to go all crazy. You just want to limit it. So put in some controls, a control mechanism that's going to reduce the risk a little bit. And then risk acceptance is where we accept the risk. There's no action is taken to stop the risk. It's going to be okay. If that fashion designer leaves us, we will accept that risk and we will move on and we will do what we need to do. Okay. The fourth step is our risk reporting. And this involves reporting to two stakeholders, our internal stakeholders, which is all information that is given through to all our stakeholders, our shareholders, our employees. We're going to be talking to anybody that is directly affected to this risk. And then, of course, reporting to our external stakeholders, and that's all very important from a corporate governance point of view, is you are reporting the risk. If Mr. Price was, buying, making clothes that had hazardous materials in it, external stakeholders want to know what impact that's got to have on the environment. You've got this amazing new dress, but in actual fact, it's full of chemicals and it is destroying land because you're having to dump some of the materials. Once you haven't sold all your fashion, you then dump it. And what happens when that material starts degrading into our earth, into our soil? There are knock-off effects of everything that we do. Okay, fantastic. I hope that is going to help you. Please go through this. Go back to your grade 11 chapter if you're in grade 12. Make sure that you understand what risk is all about. They always ask this. Have a wonderful day. Bye.